In today's video, I want to talk about all of the books that I read during the month of January. So hi and welcome to my channel. My name is Kathy and I'm a fantasy book lover from Belgium. And in today's video, I want to talk about the 5 books that I read during the month of January. If you've been around on my channel for longer, you know that I read on average 1 book every week, and the month of January was no different to that. So let's get started into the first book of 2024 that I picked up, and it was actually this one. It is Serpent and the Wings of Night. This is a book that had been on my TBR list ever since I knew about it, so I think almost half a year that I've actually wanted to read this book but haven't come to it. But now it was finally time, and I'm so happy that this was my first read of 2024. In this book we follow the main character orde. She's a female, she is raised with vampires, and at her 19th birthday she is going to participate in a sort of tournament, and if she wins that tournament she can kind of create a special bond with Vincent, who is the person who raises her. So he's like the vampire king of a specific region in the kingdom, and she is raised kind of as his daughter, even if she isn't his daughter, but adopted. So yeah, in this book we follow the trials that orde goes through. It's kind of like Hunger Game-esque, but then with vampires. I really enjoyed this book. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars because it was predictable. Like, you know how it's gonna end from the start, or at least I felt like I knew how it was gonna end from the start. A few plot twists that were really nice and refreshing, also a different take on vampires. There is a romance secondary plot in this book with the second main character, we're gonna call him, is called Rain. You will encounter him in the book very early on, and it kind of builds up. So this book does contain spice, so if you don't like spice in your vampire reads, then I would not recommend this book. However, it is very slow paced in that regard, so the spice only happens in the second half of the book and is not really that frequent. So yeah, this is like a Hunger type games situation, but then with vampires, and for some reason a human girl who is stronger than regular humans are, and who also participates in like these trials. So yeah, I really enjoyed this book. 4 out of 5 stars for me. And when I was reading Serpent and the Wings of Night, a lot of people also recommended 6 Scorched Roses to me, which is kind of a book in the same universe, but not following the same main characters. In this book, we follow our main character Lilith, who is a human girl who's actually kind of into sciences and exploring a lot of things, and the village that she lives in has been cursed. Due to that curse, people keep on dying, and there's not really something they can do about this curse, or like an antidote or medicine that they can use. However, Lilith is working on something, and she thinks that vampire blood can help with that curse. So she goes to the local vampire and actually asks him for his blood in exchange for special roses. So that's why the book is called 6 Scorched Roses, because she goes there 6 times and gives him 6 flowers. The vampire's name is Vale, and from the start you know that these two are not just gonna keep it to a simple interaction of exchanging blood. There is of course romance happening, and because this book is so short, I feel like the spice is a lot more present, and also the romance is a lot more present in this book than, for example, Serpent and the Wings of Night. I absolutely loved this book. This was my only 5-star read of January, and simply because I found that this standalone book on its own really works so well. And after reading this, I feel like, having read Serpent and the Wings of Night beforehand, I know a little bit more about the world where it takes place, etc. But you absolutely don't have to have read Serpent and the Wings of Night to enjoy this book. I'm not sure how this book will connect to the next ones, if there is a connection or not, but I really loved it, and that's also why I bought this beautiful hardcover edition of it. Up next we have a book that I didn't really enjoy, unfortunately. This is one of the Fetch Phillips books. It is the first book of a trilogy, which is called The Last Smile in Sunder City. Fetch Phillips is a detective, and he works as a detective for anyone that is not human. So he is a human in a world where magic used to exist, and due to a certain event that you will get a lot of reference to in this book, something happened with the world and magic is now gone. Now, some people still have a little bit of magical ability, some people don't at all. There's like a lot of mystery going on, but basically humans and other creatures live together and they're trying to make the world work again without magic in it. So in this book we follow Fetch Phillips, who is like the worst detective and the most like beautiful character in a book, but to an annoying point. Like the amount of self-destruction that this character does in the book is really like, it's too much for me. Like either kill yourself or go on with your life. Don't just constantly be in the in-between, because it's very tiring for me as a reader to constantly go through that struggle. So in this book, he's trying to find a vampire teacher who has vanished from his school and see where he is and what he's doing, etc. So this is kind of like a murder mystery investigation book. Personally, I already don't really enjoy those, but this one was like not an enjoyable read for me. There's 2 other books in this series that I already have, because I bought the full trilogy, because that's what I do. Whenever I find trilogies, I tend to buy all 3 books at once, even if I haven't read the first one, and I'm not sure if I'm gonna read the other ones, because I couldn't connect with the main character. I just found it a very whiny, uninteresting person. Up next is yet another book with vampires. This is the last one of this month, I promise. This book is A Dowry of Blood, and it is written by one of Dracula's brides, Constanta. This is written kind of in a letter to herself, a letter to explain what has happened in her past and to kind of just let go. The name Dracula is never actually used in this book because of the reasons that she will tell you about in the beginning of this book, and oh my god, this book is beautifully written. It is so delicate in moments, and then it's like full of emotions that I had in one of my past relationships. I had an abusive relationship, and this book very much reopened those wounds, but also then helped me realize that, hey, I'm not alone in this. There's other people who've had this happen to them, and we can live with it. So this book, if you've had any bad relationships, traumatic relationships in the past, this book might be very good for you to work through it. Also, it's just simply beautifully written. If you want more insight of the life of Dracula's brides and how they felt, I think this is a must read. And I gave this amazing book a 4 out of 5 stars. The only reason I'm not giving it a 5-star is because I felt there was still something missing, or it felt a little bit too harsh for me at some points. I did really love it. I might change my opinion later on in the year to give this a 5-star, but for now I'm sticking to 4. And then the last book I read in January is Silver in the Bone by Alexandra Bracken. This is a YA fantasy book and I absolutely love it. I have 2 special editions of it. This one is a Fairy Loot one, the other one is up there somewhere on my shelves. But yeah, I already own 2 copies of this book because I kind of knew what I was getting into, and I have to confirm that it was as good as my expectations hoped it would be. So in this book we follow Tamsin. She's a girl who has been picked up, adopted in this family of people who steal magical artifacts in exchange for money. So she's part of this guild, and her adoptive brother, so she calls him her brother, but actually they're not blood related, Caleb he's called, they have this father figure who's taking care of them, but very early on in the book you already get the context that he has left the both of them behind while going after a artifact. So after the both of them get left behind, we pick up their lives 8 years later, I believe, or a few years later at least. And they both are, so both Caleb and Tamsin have a job, are trying to make money, are trying to live, and they are still part of this guild that they were once part of with their adoptive father. In this guild, there is a guild board with different requests and quests on it. And of course, Tamsin and her brother Caleb take on several quests. And we follow them on one of them in particular, and it totally goes south. They bond with other people, try to find a solution, and yeah, that's basically what this book's about. This book is very heavily Arthurian inspired, as in Arthur and the Round Table. So if you already have a little bit of back knowledge on that, you will really enjoy this book. If, like me, you're not really super interested, it was still very enjoyable, and it did make me wonder, like, what actually happened? So in this book, we go to a different plane where this Arthurian world is, and it's not all the way people hoped it would be, or the people that they travel with hoped it would be. And I actually encounter like zombie-like creatures, and there is a lot of suspense and a lot of like epic fantasy things happening. This book contains a lot of dark magic and darker elements in it, which for me made it even better. So if you're looking into a dark, epic YA fantasy book, then I would highly recommend Silver in the Bone. And the second book that will follow on this one is releasing somewhere in 2024. So if you want to read it, I would recommend waiting until the second book is out, because the first book ends on like this plot twist that I personally did not see coming, and now I want to know more, of course, and I'm a very impatient person, so if I would have had book 2, I would have already read it, but unfortunately I didn't. So I give this book a 4 out of 5 stars. The reason why is because you really feel that this is a YA book. Sometimes it went a little bit too fast, didn't go enough in depth to my personal liking, but that is to be expected of YA books. So yeah, I highly recommend this if you're into like dark fantasy. So those were the 5 books that I read during the month of January. 3 out of them were 4 stars, 1 was a whopping 5-star, and 1 book unfortunately I didn't really connect with, which is something that happens, and I prefer to give you full transparency on my channel on the books that I read, why I like them, why I don't like them, etc. So you can find books that you enjoy. For example, if you're into like mystery books, I think the Fetch Phillips series might really be up your alley. I just personally didn't connect with it. And of course, feel free to share with me, what did you read during the month of January? I would love to know, and especially if there's anything fantasy in it that you would recommend I read, I would be very, very happy with that as well. Give this video a big thumbs up if you liked it, and of course don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I make new videos every week, and I would love to have you for every single one of them. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you very soon with a new video. Bye!